Debate 411 is proudly brought to you by Mount Kenya University School of Journalism. Success in journalism starts here. Enroll for Master of Arts in Communication and Mass Media, Bachelor of Arts in Mass Media and Communication, Diploma in Journalism. Take advantage of fees reduction and modularized programs in line with Rwanda National Qualification Framework. Call 0787 05 2363 or 0788 979113 or 0728 551199 or visit our website www.mku.ac.ke.
Right, it is Wednesday, and of course, 9, time for Debate 411. As always, my name is Eugene. Take your time. And Nangwe. All day, we talk about various issues right here on the program, Mondays and Wednesdays, that is. And various issues have been brought on the table for us to dissect them, debate them, agree to disagree on them. And tonight on the program, we are talking about an issue that most people have pointed out as part of the problem in Rwanda's education system, and that is the reading culture. And we're calling tonight's debate 250 Reading Debate. And of course, that is what we are talking about tonight on the program. That's the hashtag for today, 250 Reading Culture. Talk to us, or you can tweet us at Debate 411 or at Eugene Anangwe. Let me introduce our panelists on the program today, and we're going to be starting off with Oriane. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
You are from the Innovation Village,
yes.
And you're the managing director of Innovation Village.
Yes,
and Innovation Village, I'm made to understand, is running the Kigali Public Library.
Managing the Kigali Public Library,
Right,
yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So all the attacks on the public library, you'll be taking them on tonight.
Okay.
If there'll be any.
Yeah, I hope there are not so many.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Also with us is none other than Natasha Omutoni, co-founder of Acacia Book Cafe. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
What happens at Acacia Book Cafe?
Acacia Book Cafe, we sell books and coffee as well, everything with cafe and an environment to share ideas, to connect with people and network.
So you read a book as you take your coffee?
Yes.
All right. So we'll be digging deeper into how that motivates people to read more or not. And also with us is Dr. Jean de Massen, who's an author of this book I'm holding right here, or the other one. This one. And this one you love just reading it.
Yes.
And of course, I'm sure there's a reason why you brought it on the program.
Absolutely.
Telling our own stories, poems by Rwandan youth 20 years after the genocide. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for inviting
Also
me.
with us is none other than Dominique Alonga.
Thank you.
You just won a grant a few weeks or months ago to support children in this reading issue that we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Imagine We. That
Imagine
is
We Rwanda.
your institution.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you. I'm honored.
So we did a poll, and of course, over 90% of people who took part in that poll on our Twitter handle. We had asked them if they actually agree that Rwanda's reading culture is low. And up to 90% of them said indeed it is low, and giving various reasons. And I want to understand if all of you agree on that. Do you agree on that?
Yes, I
Doctor?
agree.
Yes.
I agree. If you look around, you go to Kigali, but you go also to the countryside, and even you see how many people have a newspaper in their hands. How many of you? To me, it's a matter of choice, and you can read, and it's really, I find very simple and easy because you have material. We all have material.
To read.
We all have newspapers everywhere.
So we have no excuse.
And we have on our phones, we have text, we have Igihe, the New Times, other newspapers, and I think it's a matter of choice. Now, how many read? And read correctly, because it's not just taking the newspaper and
Flipping through it.
and just watching the images, but read understand.
Very few of us do that.
Understand.
All right. Dominic, do you agree on that?
I think I completely agree with him. Based on the situation in Rwanda, I think I would also blame
What situation in Rwanda?
The situation in Rwanda is we almost ostracize knowledge.
In simple English, what does that mean?
We almost shun knowledge. It's if you're reading, you're over there, we don't want to relate to you. Basically, in schools, in society, our library, I think, I'm very sorry to say, but 80% of the people, that's a very informal research, but the majority of the people who attend the library are really there for the Wi-Fi rather than the books. The
Really?
books are filled with dust and not and leave untouched. So
Is that a fact?
that I'm one of the people who watch I've lived behind the library since I am, I think, 8 years old, and ever since the foundation was laid, I watched it. So I was one of the people who were very excited, kind of trespassed and went in before it was done, before it was launched. So the expectation I had when I walked in was completely different. So I kept coming. I think I backed from attending a library, and I started coming with a critical and cynical mind and watching how many people are holding books. So it's very sad to say, but it's the truth. Most people at the library are found holding phones rather than books.
Rather than books. Let's talk to Orhan here,
Yeah.
who said that she's going to be taking any information that comes
Absolutely.
towards the library. She literally sneaked when the foundation was still being laid, and now she is watching dust, pile on top of those books, and people just go for Wi-Fi. How true is this?
I will not say that people only go for Wi-Fi. We do have a large population of people who attend the library who actually, who are there to use the internet connection, but then we don't control what they are doing on there. Maybe they are reading with those devices that they bring in. But I will have to kind of agree with Dominique, because when we look at the proportion of people who visit the library every day, I think by month we have like almost 10,000 people who come into the library. But if you look at the number of books that have been checked out, it's quite a big difference.
So in your own research, what does that tell you in this whole conversation of the reading?
Well, it tells us that the people who attend the library don't necessarily go for the traditional reading style that we all know, that we all learned to love. That's why we're all sitting here. The written material, they probably go on to do some reading online. Some of them actually also use the library because we have a lot of notebooks and scientific and IT that they only use for the moment, for the research that they're doing at the moment. But reading as leisure, as that moment that we all take this book and we take home for our own specific pleasure.
That is not happening.
It's not happening as much as it would happen for reading for other purposes, I would say. Yeah.
For you, when you listen to this with your coffee to entice someone to come and give them that environment, does it make you feel like changing your business plan? Because she says that people are going there just for Wi-Fi. So could people just be coming for your coffee and they're not reading?
No. They're coming for both. They're coming for the environment and also reading. I agree that the reading culture is low, but it's not that low. There are some people who actually read.
So we are exaggerating this issue.
We're exaggerating in a way because we're trying to compare it with the traditional reading. Like
is that wrong?
Saying. I think it's wrong because times are evolving, and as much as the reading culture is not growing that much compared to, let's say, East African countries. You mentioned newspapers. If you look in Uganda or Kenya, everyone is reading a newspaper. Here it's different, but if you look at the people who comment on newspapers, on Igihe, Umuseke, there are very many. They just read in different ways. But also, if they can find something that they can relate to, I think that would also be easy.
So what we are writing is not what people are really relating to, so it doesn't interest them to read. Is this part of the problem?
Can I?
Yes, of course.
Yes, you
what
can.
she said.
Yes.
She talked about the library.
Yes.
Go to the library and observe.
Yes.
Who is in the library? Who is in the library? most of the time, student.
Yes,
Why? Why? Because
they're doing
they are
research.
for the dissertation, master's degree, or bachelor degrees.
Yeah.
And because of that. But when they finish the bachelor degrees or master's degree, how many times they go back to the library? I'm provocative. I'm trying to be provocative.
Break
But
the
you know
ice,
who else
doctor,
is in the
break the
library?
ice, yes.
Children.
Sorry?
We have a lot of children in the library. We
Yes,
have
I agree.
200 kids.
Because there's a
Absolutely.
push, there's
Yes.
something that is making them go there.
And what are they doing?
I agree.
Yes.
The children, again, look at them, and who are those children? Hello?
Okay.
They are children. Most of the time, they finish their school at any schools here in Kigali, and sometimes, and I think most of them, because the parents are not at home to take care of them.
Yeah.
And I absolutely agree with them. And better to go into the library,
Where you can have even
Exactly.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
spend the time reading. Yes, but so we have also to know who is going, who is not going, and maybe why. Because
Yeah.
we are
Before you
here, I think,
continue,
to
yes.
encourage people to read,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because he raises a key thing that if a majority of people who go to the library are these students who are
Yes.
researching, and after they've finished, nobody goes back there, then what does that tell us? And what do we do then to ensure that these people keep coming there because they need to nurture, their knowledge and fertilize their minds with more information that these libraries offer?
But how do we know they're not doing that even outside of the
So how
library?
do we know
If
that
I
they're
can
doing
say
it?
something.
How do we know
Yes.
they're doing it? Before
If
you
I-
come in, Dominic, yes.
What I can say, for example, in terms of the Kigali Public Library alone, when we look at our percentage of members, we actually have more adults who are not students, who are not teenagers, who are not kids, as members. So they do come, and they're probably the ones who borrow the most of the books that we have that are kind of checked out. But the proportion again is quite different. So what we are doing to ensure that nurture that reading culture, we invite children in to make sure that the complaints that we have now will not follow our society into the future.
So you're sort of saying that you adults, you're a hard nut to crack. Let's now deal with the new generation that we will build.
That's
and
what we are
ensure they're
starting with.
reading.
That's who we are starting with now. We have been running the library since July. We've only been there for do the math. So our first target, obviously, we are going for the children, and that's how we have programs for children. Then we're moving on to students, and then eventually we move on to adults. But even for adults, we host a lot of book clubs. So when we look at all these book clubs, and I know they are not proportionate to the population of Kigali, but somehow we cannot say that there's nothing, that there's no literature or love of reading in our community.
So there's a love of reading in our community. Do you agree?
I have I've had the privilege to actually work in partnership with a public library, and we're a youth-based organization founded by young people, and we work with children. So we kind of observe the generational differences. And one of the things that I wanted to mention was, for the young people, although they do say that they go to the libraries, one of the things that we have been able to notice over and over and over again is they don't process information that much. They copy-paste information. So basically, we are not yet trained. That's why, even as an organization, we really want to invest in reviewing our whole approach. I think we posted as a tweet that no matter how many libraries we set up, that's not the problem. The problem is the approach, because kids are told, oh, there is this space and you can go in to read. So they read and they want to memorize. We've grown in a culture where memorizing as much information is what is necessary. So what does this say? And we repeat it or paste it wherever is necessary and wherever allows us. For children, another thing is, I applaud and commend the new publishing houses that are coming up that focuses on very, very little children. I think the focus right now is 10 and below, which still addresses a very small percentage of the Rwandan population. If we were to ask us as a, as a place, the panel here, how many bookstores are in Rwanda? How many can you think of off the top of your head? And how many publishing houses can we think of off the top of our heads that are not for little kids like Edition Bakame? How many of those places, how many novels that are not, another informal research that I did was that we have about 90% novels, books that we can find that are that thick. 90% of those books are genocide-based. And I think 80% of those genocide or kind of political books are written by foreigners. So we really have very little numbers of authors, and the authors that we do have focus on very little kids. So that we cannot keep reading the Nicholas Sparks and Dan Browns forever. We need a new approach. We really just need to go back. I don't know if it's in schools, I don't know if it's in the society in general, and review the whole approach.
So you want us to nurture new authors who will write our own stories, as this book here says. So let me bring in Dr. Damasan here, because other people, before we started this show, when we were having the pre-debate on online, some people say that, but there's nothing to read. I mean, where are those authors? Where are those books that we will read? So how do you take this, being a person who sits down and does your research to write a novel like that or a book like that?
No one can say there is nothing to read. There are many things to read. You go to the Kigali Public Library, there are many books. You go to Kachiru, Ikirezi. You go to Ikirezi, you can read. You go to different libraries, to different universities here in Kigali, you can read. You buy a newspaper, you buy a Igihe, but you read intelligently. So, to me, it's taking time to read, and understand what you are reading.
So it should not matter who the author is, whether it's local or an international author.
No, because to me, when you start reading, especially for kids, you don't need to know who is the author, but you have a document, take the time, read it, and understand. That's how you will learn. Reading, it's progressive. The habit of reading, you start, you read, you continue, etc., etc. You don't give up. That's how our children here, I think, in the schools, starting from the schools, they should read small booklets like this. That's why I brought this one, by the way, because this one was written by
Gilbert
young, but not only him, but young Rwandese between 14 and 28 years old. So it means that the kids can also write. If they can write, they can also read. And if you don't read, you can't write.
Definitely.
So if you can't read, you cannot write.
No.
So it's not a chicken and egg situation. What comes first? Do we put
I
writers
don't think
first before we have
let me-
readers, or what do we
because
need? Yes.
I'm saying this because I said if you don't read, you can't write. First of all, you read. Go to the primary school. You start by reading, but also writing at the same time. But first of all, you read. You observe the letter, you understand the letter, and you try to make difference between A and B, right? And then you read and you write. But for like for example, if you want to write an article in the Igihe or in the New Times, if you want to write an article, you can't write if you didn't read before what have been written on that subject. Okay.
But you see, Doctor, it comes back to what she was saying. We have a copy-paste mind. So you have written. What I'll do, I'll read what you have wrote, and
For me to write.
And I'll write exactly in that same context. That's why we have most of our newspapers. They're almost the same. But and I also, if you, like you say, I agree that you cannot write if you do not read. But there's a certain element we mostly associate reading with studies, because if you look in schools, if you have a novel, if you have comic books, because while growing up, one of the things that helps you is comic books, or books with pictures in them. But if the teachers would see you, you'd have to hide them. They would be confiscated. So reading, we always, at least in the Rwandan schools, it's always associated with studying. So that's why we come to do researches in the library. And
because we want to pass those exams.
We want
it's
to
not
pass
just because
the
we want to
exams,
get this information for us.
to gain knowledge. And also our imagination is kind of limited, because if I can't read a novel and I won't be able to write the stories, what I'll do, I'll replicate. And also coming back to the content that we have, how many authors do I'm sorry, but I don't know many authors, Rwandan authors, that haven't written about the genocide. As much as I honor that, we have to tell our own stories, but I believe we have much more stories to tell after the genocide, before the genocide. I don't know much about the history of Rwanda. I actually know more of the history of Burundi, more of the history of the French Revolution, than I know about Rwanda, which is a shame. So I think it comes back to the content. If you bring in, yes, we have to elevate the reading culture, but we have to tell our own stories.
We need to tell our stories.
We easily relate.
So do you feel that this is an excuse when we say that we do not have more Rwandan authors, so that is why we have nothing to read? The newspapers are the same. I go to this one, it's almost the same thing they're saying. Is this an excuse, like, for real?
I don't think it's an excuse, because we can read East Africans. We like Chimamanda. Why do we like her? Because she's African, because she talks about kinky hair I can easily relate to than a white person. But instead of making an excuse, I think we can try. Like you say, I can write on Igihe, I can send an article, I can write on the New Times and try to change the perspective. I don't believe in excuses. If you see a gap, you can still try to
fix the gap.
Yes.
What's your thought on that one? I mean, the thought that we do not have books written by our own, so we cannot be able to find something interesting to read.
Well, we have books that are written by our own. There is a portion of those books that are about the genocide, but they are also historical books. There are also books for children. You have published a book for children by children that is really, 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 like, children at the library love it. So I think that's how you get to encourage people who have that urge and that ability to write to do so. There are many, many authors that we do not know of because everybody is self-published. So I will write my book at home and I'll go to the printer next door and I'll print it and then walk around the city trying to sell it, with all the stress that involves and all the problems to access an audience that involves. So what we need to do is basically, for example, as a library, make sure that the writers out there know that there is a platform for them to come and bring their material. We are not here to make an exclusion on what should be in the library and what should not. If it's Rwandan, we believe that it has a space, space on our shelves.
But
so
how doable is that, really?
Just ask your question. What did you just say?
Because I was asking her how doable. It sounds very, very, very beautiful to hear, but as an author, in the last couple of months, I just completed a book. I believe it's a very nice book. Obviously, I'm the author, so I would have to believe that. But it's a story after the genocide. It's a story about today's Rwanda, a Rwanda that is inspiring. It's covering the beauty of Rwanda. And we spent, I personally sent more than 300 emails trying to get funding for that book. I approached the Kigali Public Library, showed them the funding that we needed. It's supposed to be a boost, right? It's supposed to be a boost. We want to see that we are supported in such ways. If you know, so who else to approach rather, you know, than
So what you're
these-
saying is authors
so
also need support, which is not
authors,
forthcoming.
yeah. I mean, I want to compare this to IT, which is booming. I mean, they've got Transform Africa, which I've been saying. They've got all these networks, and it's just trending so hard right now that you feel pressured. You're like, okay, just because I'm not, you know, is it that Rwanda only needs this? So we saw a real issue. We saw the reading culture as a real issue, and part of the things that inspired me as a person to write a book was we worked with children, and most of the books that we have are donated from Australia, the United States, Canada. So the children we worked with would look at Cinderella and say,
They relate with that.
I've never seen people with yellow hair. I've never seen blue eyes. I do not understand
So
horses.
they want something they relate
yeah,
with.
so they wanted something they related to. And that's the same as teens, young adults. So we're like, you know what? Let's start a publishing house, which we registered.
So this is a message to authors.
Yeah,
Write things or do things
I mean,
that
where
people
do we
can
go?
relate with.
Like, I want to ask this question to her. Where do we go to get that support? Where is that platform that supports people who are really willing to step out in uncharted waters and write and say, you know what, this book is completed.
Super.
You know,
Can
what
Oriane
do we
answer
do?
that when
Yes,
we come back
like
from
I
the
can
break?
tell
Just when we
okay,
come back
yes.
from the break.
All right,
So just
definitely.
keep it in there.
Yeah.
Don't forget it.
Oh, I'm not going to.
Because
I'm sure
today
she
we-
reminds me.
Because we're talking about the reading culture, so
Yes.
my culture of reading tweets today, I need to really up it. Of course, I'll be reading some of those comments. I have here one from BlackRob177 on Twitter, and it says that I completely agree with you. In Rwanda, we got no culture of reading compared to Kenya and Uganda in the East Africa. So that is what they feel. And you were having a problem. If we go comparing, then we will look ourselves as doing nothing.
Yes.
Do you agree with this?
Yes,
Do you
I agree with
this
that.
tweet?
Yeah.
You
yeah.
do? All right. So we have another one here, which, okay, from your bosses. Are you debating reading in general or reading books only? We need to look past the medium to reading and learning. You know, this is from Innovation Village. Did you tell them to back you up?
I did not say that.
Right, so thank you so much. Keep tweeting. I'll be reading more of those tweets when we come back. Use the hashtag 250 reading culture or hashtag debate 411. We're back in a very, very short while. Do stay with us.
Debate 411 is proudly brought to you by Mount Kenya University School of Journalism. Success in journalism starts here. Enroll for Master of Arts in Communication and Mass Media, Bachelor of Arts in Mass Media and Communication, Diploma in Journalism. Take advantage of fees reduction and modularized programs in line with Rwanda National Qualification Framework. Call 0787 05 2363 or 0788 9791 13 or 0728 551199 or visit our website www.mku.ac.ke. Good news from the largest private university in the East Africa region, Mount Kenya University. We have reduced fees for undergraduates who want to pursue courses in business, travel and tourism, information sciences or IT, and social science related programs. We are also giving our alumni and bachelor students wishing to pursue master's programs a 10% fees discount. Our programs are modularized in line with Rwanda National Qualifications Framework. Mount Kenya University. My university, my pride, my future. My affordable education.
The Nakumat Back to School offer is here. Top up your school fees or shopping balance by redeeming your Nakumat Smart Points at 15 Rwandan francs per point. Nakumat. You need it, we've got it.
When we're talking about real reforms, we are also being realistic.
Baongaho, get out of here.
Debate 411 is not just about starting conversations.
Sometimes it's important to criticize, but as a Rwandan, because that's my starting point, I also feel that when I criticize, I should point to a way out.
But creating a platform where those conversations can be moved forward.
You know, and then I look at the man and I say, wait a minute, we have badges here, we're on duty. What's going on? I said, get out of here.
We had a bad past, which some people have. We have a very good present.
The few guys who are there to produce have never been broadcasting anything and get paid for it.
They want to copy concepts that have already been done somewhere else and just flip it into Kinyarwanda, and they call it local.
It's about accountability.
It's not about what the government does only. It's also about the response that people give. This environment is about how people take advantage of it.
It gets up close and personal.
Arnold is coming to watch a match of football in halftime. How will he going to report that match?
Debate 411 with me, Eugene Anangwe, at these times on Rwanda Television.
This is an EA production. Debate 411 is proudly brought to you by Mount Kenya University School of Journalism. Success in journalism starts here. Mount Kenya University. My university, my pride, my future, my affordable education.
Right, because we don't write, we do not read. This is part of the conversation we're having on the behind the scenes. Welcome back. Thank you so much for choosing Debate 411. We're right here every Monday and Wednesday, 9 p.m. And of course, we're talking various issues. We do not just start these conversations. We also offer that platform where we move them forward. And of course, we're looking forward to reading from you. Talk to us. Share your thoughts. What are your thoughts on this issue of reading culture? Are we just talking about it out of just wanting to talk about it? Or really, there is a problem in there? And if there is a problem, what do we need to do to sort it out? We are looking at fixing those gaps and not just the issues or the problems or the challenges. So we're looking forward to reading your tweets at Debate411. Use the hashtag Debate411 or 250 Reading Culture, or you can tweet me directly at Eugene Nangwe. Right, so before we went for the break, there are some tweets that have been coming. Let me read this one very, very quickly. We have one from Dolapo, who's actually in Nigeria watching us online. It says, some argue that stick to reading books in your field. Ever wondered why global leaders and religious clerics are well versed? Because they read they stick to reading what they are, supposed to be working around. I don't know what that means in this particular conversation, but he comes back to say there is nobody as daft as an educated man. Once you get him off the subject he was educated in. This is a quote from Owen Kelly. So read wide. This is what he's saying. Another one here from Fabrice, that is F. Humura on Twitter, says, very unfortunate for even university students to complete his or her studies without reading at least 3 books. Yeah. So, how do we make this issue a non-issue? How do we do this?
I think we have to start from the kindergarten.
Yeah.
We have to start from there and bring books, small books, booklet, newspaper to the kids.
But this is not something that we're hearing for the first time.
Yes.
Why are we not starting? Why are we saying we have to? Why are we not yet doing that?
I think, first of all, we need someone to write those booklet or those small books for the kids. Before asking the kids to read, you have to give them what to read. And then you need someone to write.
But we have Edition Bakame. We have where did George Banetti come from? We have those books that we read.
So they're already there.
There are some books that are already there. We still need more. But what I think the government, just like they're emphasizing on ICT, they're emphasizing on other things. In, for example, the Ministry of Culture, they can also emphasize on reading because Rwandans tell stories. We have Ikinamico on radio. So if we can document the stories that we tell, we have many people who are bloggers, many Rwandans who are bloggers. If they can be encouraged now to go print, and then we supply them to schools, that would be a great start. So I think the government needs to come in, at least if we want to have a generation of people who have, I mean, there doesn't need to be a gap. No one has to feel like the only way to progress in the future, you have to be in IT, because there are other ways that can be complementary to that.
But what if the government, as we say, as an institution, doesn't come out? So what happens? Do we just stick like this? What happens?
No, organizations.
Have you ever heard of people saying that the government is you and me? I mean, so what do we do then?
I think the responsibility really starts at home.
Yes.
It starts with the parents. It starts with me having a child who's not even in kindergarten, and leading by example, you know, reading them stories. And the fact that my child is going to see me read, they're going to kind of like get that curiosity. It's not necessarily only through books, because now we have to acknowledge that times have changed. It's also just pushing your kids to have that thirst of knowledge, of learning, just the curiosity, just to want to be, to just keep, because if you stick to books, then there are other things that, because there are many kids who have really been taught to do that but don't like to read in that sense. But guess what? They love watching documentaries.
But the challenge is, some people say that this reading to our kids before they go to sleep is so
really
Zulu-like.
Not before they go to sleep,
I mean, it's
because
not
that
our
before they go to sleep, that again is not a good way of motivating someone to read. Why is the story supposed to put you to bed? Why is it something that you can do during the day?
So it's a wrong thing.
I don't think it's a wrong thing, but it's not. That's not the only moment when a child should be taught they should be reading. You don't only read before you go to sleep. You read all.
So you were sort of telling them a book should make you lazy and sleepy.
Exactly.
This is what we're teaching.
Well,
them
that's
when
my
we read to
personal
them.
opinion.
That's your personal opinion. Doctor wants to say something, but I'll allow first of all, Dominique, you wanted to jump in on that.
I wanted to jump in on that because
of the role of parents.
The role of parents is very important. Research shows that children who are read to before, even any time of the day, before they go to sleep, before they do better at languages and math. I don't know how that works, but they actually do better at languages and math. And another research that is being done is every children learn the alphabet much better when every letter is connected to a story.
Yes.
So you say, the apple went to the attic, and then they'll remember. So every time a story is linked to a letter, the children actually, they consume that passion slowly. So we were taught in Rwanda, I feel we were taught to be alphabeticized rather than literate. Basically, we are able to, I love when we say, oh, the literacy rate is growing and growing. I'm like, is that really the literacy rate? Or is just the ability to read a string of letters that follow each other? Because I believe personally, the literacy is the ability to see a word and be able to link it to something, that is information, not just be able to read A, B, C, D that follow each other.
There's someone that has just come in now. I'm going to bring you back because you wanted to say something, then I told her to talk. Someone has just responded to the government, the call to the government, and it's Shema on Twitter, at Shema Steve, and he says, the government can't do everything. We instead have to identify what can be done mainly from both the civil society and the private sector. But the private sector, I mean, let's talk of the role of the private sector, because some of us here are in the private sector, because your cafe, the book cafe is a private sector thing. Where do you see the role of private sector here?
I agree with them. For example, we're in the private sector. We have a bookstore, and one of the ways that we are trying to encourage people to read is have a book club. We have an adult book club, and one of the plans this year is to roll out those book clubs now into schools and have teenagers and as well as kids, encourage the reading culture. So I think the private sector as well, if you have publishing houses, if you have organizations like Imagine, we trying to encourage people and to write stories and writers. So I think we still have a role to play.
You have a role to play.
Yes.
Someone is asking on Twitter as well, has anyone on the reading culture defined it for us? Just joined the 250 reading culture debate. How do we make them understand that this is what we are talking about? You know, when we're saying reading culture, probably from the library, what would you say this is actually?
I would qualify that in an informal way. This is not like a definition from any sort of dictionary. To me, the reading culture is not only the ability but the willingness to look for information in written materials. That's what I would call the reading culture. It could be fiction or non-fiction. It could be leisure or education.
Research,
It can be any medium too, you know. It's just that effort to look for information, to look for kind of like a portal to expand either your imagination or your knowledge or your skill or your experience.
So this is the definition, and I'm hoping that we all sort of agree with that in that particular level. So someone was asking at some point, when are we going to have, like we have in other places, because you said that comparing sometimes makes it look difficult, like we are not doing anything, but in the end we also have to learn good practices from others that are making it or sort of doing things well. The issue in our schools in terms of the set books, dramatizing them, having them in our curriculum, like they will come as part of the exams. You know, when are we going to do this? I mean, do you think today is that day we need to really be thinking of doing this in our schools?
I think in the school we should improve the language, the culture of reading by producing and bringing reading material into the classroom. And I think if you check with the Ministry of Education we've read, I think they are doing that, especially with the new curriculum, with the new program starting this year.
Yes.
I think there is this idea of bringing books, asking publishers to publish on short stories on Rwanda and for Rwandans. And again, by Rwandans and on Rwanda, because this is very important. Because when you bring names from Paris, from I don't know which country, it will be difficult. But when you use names, Kongoro or Huye or Nyanza, it will be better to understand.
Gisha,
yes,
those ones.
using Rwandan
definitely,
names. Absolutely, and again, it's bringing the material, giving the facilities. Because those kids, they need help.
Yeah.
They need help. And who's going to help them? Teachers and the collectivity. So bringing the material, but also giving time to the kids to read. She mentioned, I think, the reading before going to sleep.
Bed, yes.
And for me, this is very important because I think as a kid, before you go to sleep, you need your mom or your dad or your brother or sisters to come, and it help the kids really psychologically to help the kid.
So if we are parents out there, we need to start doing that.
Definitely.
Any parent watching now and has a kid need to go to a bookshop, get a book.
Bring the book to the kids.
Yes.
And they learn from adults, especially from the parents or the brothers and sisters.
Yes.
The small we learn from his brother or his So bringing the material and also encouraging them to read and giving them time.
Yes,
exactly. Can I speak about? He mentioned the word teachers, and I wanted to jump on it because
you're on it already. Talk to us.
We noticed we started this organization, started donating books in about so far 8 schools, and they're there, and the teachers are kind of like, we need to keep them as new as possible, and nobody should touch them, and so the approach, the teacher's way of approaching, no matter how many books are given to them, they should be trained. So even if they tell the kids, okay, go ahead and read, that will never work. So the way we started is train the teachers to first of all be passionate, because passion is contagious. So it's, if they read and they like tell your own story and start, you know, in the West, you see teachers going on the floor and roaring like a lion, and engaging the kids, and you know, and it's not just a task, which is what we see in Rwanda. It's just, okay, guys, read. Okay, what did you get? Question: where did Tona go? How many mangoes did they pick? And it's not, you know. And the teachers should be trained by the Mineduc or the civil society. We're very willing to do so. To bring
what are you waiting for to start doing that? The government to tell you, do it?
Funding.
Funding.
We need a salary. We need the car to get us there. We're willing. We're more than willing, and we've been working on a manual, games around reading for children. And if we could sell it to them to make some money on our own, because at some point as a civil society, if we're young and new,
you cannot
we can't do much. So
because does it concern you? Because does it concern you that there is no private institution that has started sort of a public library like the one we have?
Oh, there are. Especially in terms of community libraries. Out of like 24 community libraries, I can say that 21 are privately owned.
So why are people not reading? Why are they saying we don't have enough libraries?
Now, we have enough libraries, but you have to see what's in those libraries.
Yes.
Because they are not all funded the same. They're not run by people with the same skills. Some libraries are extremely advanced, and some community libraries are just empty and there's nothing there. And it's part of the district mandate to create a community library. But that's still, you know, it's still coming. But not all districts have.
She shook her head.
No, I agree with her.
This is a bit diplomatic for you, you feel?
No, it's not diplomatic. But I think it's one thing to have a library in a community.
Yeah.
It's another thing to have a reading culture to bring for people to read, because it just might be another building that's there, you know, one of the Mihigo, and it's done.
Yes.
But you have to create, just like the Kigali Public Library is trying to create activities for kids to bring them and teach them. We have to create that a motivation for people to actually read. So whatever it is, I think it's not enough to have a public library. You have to create the atmosphere. You have to encourage
for people to come there and read.
Yes.
Let me read some of the comments also that are coming in here. Edwin Musoni on Twitter says, the role of parents is crucial. When I was growing up, my father could make me read a whole newspaper for him at the age of 8 to 13. Like, read for me page 1 to the last one. I mean, should we do this to our kids today?
I think it's good, because you also spend time with your kid. Instead of spending time now, because we have smartphones, you're on your smartphone, on social media, you can actually use that time and read stories and connect with your kid like that. It helps them to spend time
Would you
together.
tell your daughter or your son, if you have any, that read for me this, in order to inculcate that culture of reading in them?
Well, it depends on the child as well. You know, if I as a child, I would have done that with pleasure. But my brother, for example, that would be a punishment. So you have to find your children's personality or learning style and kind of like adapt to that, because they can all get to the point where they love reading, but you have to approach it with being sensitive to the children.
Super. Yes, you want to say?
Yeah. I prefer that the kids read what she or he wants.
Absolutely.
Yes. Don't force them, but give him or her the material, and then he or she will choose.
Decide.
And what you can do, you can ask her or he to just give you a summary what
they read.
And that you will see how he can also tell the story. Because you made a connection between language and mathematics. Yes, because when you read, it's your brain. It's you develop your brain, and you think, because it's just not A, B, C. That you think what that means, and this connection is because you develop the reading capacity.
Yes.
You develop your imagination. It's a cognitive
learning.
Learning.
Yes.
And this is very important. So asking.
So ask them to summarize for you to understand that they have understood what they want.
Also for them,
yes,
you will help them, and also they will talk, because it's not talking. It's just not talking. No, you talk, but you say something funny. You say something good.
So you dramatize for them to understand more.
I think that's very important, because in high school I had a French teacher, and I was in Anglophone, and she would give us books and then we would summarize them. It really helped us to improve our French. We had to summarize in front of the class. So that's one of the techniques that actually you gain knowledge, you also learn, it improves your speech.
And to come back to the role of parents,
yes.
There are many people who think books are expensive anyway. We don't really have the means to buy a book, because once that book is done, I have to buy another one, and that's like a budget that we don't have. But there are many applications that provide e-books on your smartphone and that are free. Last year, you were there, right? When we hosted the launch of this organization that launched an app called Library for All. It has over 100 books in Kinyarwanda.
So we have these
that
books,
are free.
we have these libraries, but we're just saying that we do not have libraries so that we can go read. So this is a total excuse.
These are applications that are free to download and free to use. And they have books that are targeted towards the youngest members of our community. So maybe the problem is that the knowledge is not there as to where to find those reading material.
Okay. 1 minute to go. Let me just read this one, and then we do a round of our parting shots and the way forward from here. Someone here says that instead of buying phones for children for their birthdays, buy for them books, period.
Exactly.
This is Karitanya Edgar on Twitter. I mean, should we go this way? Because you're saying we have online platforms and they are on our phones. So are we going back to the old age days and saying that, no, we have to buy you this? Can't we change and use what we have
I think,
in a good way?
I think we're humans, and humans naturally like what trends, right? So as much as a few years ago, teens did not like coding, but the momentum that was created, the honor that came with it, the dignity that came with it, made kids actually get to computers and code. So I think we all as a society, especially those with means,
so we need to come up with
work
incentives
together and make incentives and some kind of momentum to make someone feel dignified if
when
they're read.
Yes. Thank you so much. That's your parting word. What about you, Doctor? Like in your parting word, what do we do? Where do we go from here? Very briefly.
We can use both, the smartphone but also the book. I think I prefer to have paper.
Yes.
I can take it and I can digest. I can digest and understand what I'm reading. And I think the kids, if you give him or her just one page, you take time and enjoy, read and enjoy. She or he can also use the
30 seconds. Yes, let's wrap it up.
Okay. So
yes.
The smartphone, because she can also read, but read intelligently, because some people read just and they don't understand what they read.
Right. That's a very key word. Read intelligently.
If
parting word.
Yes, you can read intelligently, but I also think in the long run, if you keep reading, it's going to improve your knowledge. It's going to improve. I mean, you're going to gain many things. It's good to read. But again, charity begins at home. If we think the reading culture is low in Rwanda, let's spread. Let me start with a friend and exchange books. If I have a friend I would like to encourage, or
so
children
we start this,
at home, let's start with ourselves.
Let's not just complain, but be part of the solution.
Absolutely, and I'll add to what Natasha is saying, because instead of encouraging or forcing your child to read, encourage them to look for information, to give them that thirst to always learn, and they will go to reading automatically. So it starts at home, and it starts with school, and it starts with all the members of the community and the institutions, public institutions. Exactly. It's collective responsibility to make sure that our youngest, like all members of the community, is kind of like have access to all the information that they may need to be able to grow and make sure that our country continues and sustains the growth that we've been having so far.
Thank you so much, ladies, and of course, gentlemen. I'm told that Lucy Mbavazi would be so happy to look at us on this show today, because most of the time we've had male panelists right here, and I've always wondered why are there no ladies on the show. But thank you so much for honoring the invitation. I was happy you replaced a man who was supposed to be here. I'm always happy seeing ladies also on the panel and all of us debating these key issues, and let's keep talking about these issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and to you
Thank
too,
you
who has been tweeting and commenting and also watching us and being part of this program in any way, thank you so very much. Keep tweeting. The conversation continues online. The hashtag is 250 Reading Culture. Let's keep talking. How do we get to the bottom of this issue? How do we solve it? Let's talk in a way that we will be able to have a final solution to this issue. We'll be seeing you again next week on Monday with yet another topic. Keep suggesting them at Debate 411 at I'm Eugene Anangwe. And as always, I'm Eugene. I'll let you finish that for me. Goodbye for now.
Debate 411 is proudly brought to you by Mount Kenya University School of Journalism. Success in journalism starts here. Enroll for Master of Arts in Communication and Mass Media, Bachelor of Arts in Mass Media and Communication, Diploma in Journalism. Take advantage of fees reduction and modularized programs in line with Rwanda National Qualification Framework. Call 0787 05 2363 or 0788 9791 13 or 0728 551199 or visit our website www.mku.ac.ke.